Please tell me you've written this down.
I have written the story, and I love it.
This is the story of a vacuum cleaner. This vacuum cleaner sucked. You'd push it around and it made sounds and air rushed around, but I think it was pushing the air out.
So I laid it over on its side, and as he, held it on, turned on the button, I fed the hair into the moving rollers on the bottom. I'd pick up a handful of hair, put it in the roller, and it would disappear.
A cup of coffee with my mom.
Mom was just telling me a story about this hoarder that our family knew very well, who needed help, but how do you decide? Like, when are you helping, Mom? And then when are you enabling?
It was really difficult for us because I knew him well. And he was employed, he had a good job, but he was just a hopeless hoarder. His house was filled, his car was filled, his van was filled. He had bought 3 storage sheds for his backyard. They were filled. He kept saying, "Well, I'm going to start getting rid of some of this stuff." He couldn't do it. He was mentally ill. And when he called us and said, "I can't get into my kitchen. I've taken off my pants with the bulging pockets and I've turned sideways. I can't inch my way through the clutter in my kitchen. I can't get to my bathroom and my bedroom. I can't fit in my car anymore. Could I just spend a couple of nights with you and then I'll come back in the daytime and get rid of some of this stuff?" Well,
Can I just bring some of my stuff with me when I come over? Just
at
just
which
a
he
couple
would
of
have
trucks.
done. I didn't know what to do. I did write to a friend, and he's a minister actually, to see if he could help. But in the meantime, I said, "I am so sorry, but we're leaving in the morning. We're going to Florida. Um, sorry about that."
Liar.
I I didn't know what else to say because I knew if he came, he would not leave. He was not capable of leaving. I wasn't, I'm not trained to deal with mental illness, and
But you certainly know how to lie when your back's against the wall.
but I did put him on to this mutual friend of ours who was a
Oh,
minister.
oh, good. Oh, really? Wow.
Awesome.
Are you guys still friends?
Well, he passed away tragically
Oh,
because of his hoarding. He couldn't get to his medication in the refrigerator. Yeah,
Oh God. Look, I don't
it's
even know how
it's
to
it's a horrible story.
it is horrible, but when it gets to the point where you can't get through your own kitchen without taking your pants off, somebody's trying to send you a message, surely.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around that his pockets were so full, like he was hoarding in his pants as well, right?
He
Like his
had
pockets
cargo
were.
pants, and the sides of his legs bulged out as far as the pants would allow, and his other all of his pockets were filled. They were
Any
filled
idea what
with,
was in them?
yeah, oh yes, balls of string, tape, um, oh golly, various and sundry things. I don't remember now, but I remember all of that string that he had. He couldn't throw anything away. He was powerless to throw away an envelope that had a canceled stamp on it. Um, oh my goodness. I have pictures that you just, it's just such a sad story. And Mike, your dad, oh, hi, Freddie. Oh,
I
hope
just wanted you to say goodbye to him because I'm going to go ahead and throw him out now with all the other things that are just making me crazy over here.
he's looking at you.
I know.
He,
You
wa-
haven't seen the boy in a while.
he
He was
wants
having a
your
little freak out.
approval. Michael,
You know,
don't let him do that.
I don't care anymore. I love the dog. He's 12 years old now. If he wants to lick me in the mouth, I don't care. I don't care.
Mm.
I mean, I do care a little bit, but
Sure, you
obviously not
do.
enough. I want to talk about, I mean, since we're on this weird subject, Isn't it crazy how, like, when you were 30 or 40 or 50, was hoarding, I mean, I know it was a word, but was it a thing? Did anybody talk about it? Like, like
Mm.
all of us, I mean, this couldn't have just happened in the last 30 or 40 years, but it got a name. We
Right.
gave it a name, and shortly after it had a name, it
It had a
it
TV show.
it had a TV show, and it damn near had a whole network, Chuck. Hoarders
Oh
was a
my gosh.
huge show, and
Wow.
and many hoarding shows spun off of that, and I can't prove it, but I think it might have been another one of those that Dirty Jobs helped kickstart. We did a segment back in season 1. It wasn't about hoarding. It was about, it was about this woman who had a dirty job, and I wound up going back to her house for whatever reason in the course of filming, and her house was just it just looked like a garage, like that had been completely overfilled with every inch of the house. And and even back then, this was 2004, and the first thing that popped into my mind wasn't, "Oh my gosh, we got ourselves a hoarder." It was just, "Man, this place is a mess." But now here we are, hoarding is a thing. It's a mental condition, obviously. I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying that, isn't it odd how once you name a thing, there it is, everywhere you look.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I did. I did call protective services and I talked to them about this person. And they said, oh, yes, that was something that they could take care of. So they went and picked him up, committed him temporarily to an institution that could have helped him. He called me from there and he said, please come and get me. He didn't know that I had done this.
Mm.
And he said, please come and get me out of here. These people don't know what they're doing. It took them 2 hours just to go through my pockets. And he was blaming them for that. He just, he was hardly coherent. And I said that I couldn't do that, that perhaps they could help him do what he had committed to do to get rid of a lot of his stuff. And he hung up. But let me tell you what happened.
Mm.
Some well meaning people that he knew from a church went and got him out. And they thought they were doing what was right because he called and he begged them. They, they shouldn't have done that, but they thought they were doing the right thing. Um, I don't know.
Well, there it is. I mean, that's the message for the season. It's your best intentions, right? You can't always know, and it's such a torture. I know we talk about this a lot because, being a best-selling author now, 3 plus times over, people ask you for advice and they ask you for encouragement, and it's always fun to give, but boy, you don't always know who you're talking to. And when encouragement becomes enabling, when help becomes hurt, uh, how do you know?
Here is one more layer of this story. He had an offspring who lived out of state
You mean like a
and
child?
a child. I don't want this person to hear this and know that I'm talking. So I'll just
Yeah, but I mean, we just, for the clarity, we're staying within the same species.
let's just call his offspring a daughter. Let's say he has a daughter, had a
Okay.
daughter
Okay.
who lived out of state, and protective services got in touch with her and asked for her help. Asked She couldn't. She said, I can't do it. I have been dealing with this my entire life. My mother passed away partly because of this problem. She had lost a sibling possibly because of this problem. their whole family had been really messed up. And she said, I just can't deal with it. I'm sorry. I'm not trained to deal with this. Just as I had said, this mental illness, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I have children, can't expose them. So she received criticism for this from people here that I know.
Yeah.
But should she have? When you think about it, she had been dealing with that issue her entire life.
Well,
Well, I
sure.
mean, certainly her adulthood.
God, it's so complicated, you know? I mean, when a person you love and who loves you asks for a drink and you know for a fact that they've struggled with alcohol, you don't give them a drink simply because they love you or because you love them. You can't do that. But you also have to be in a state of mind at that point when you understand that you're not dealing with a desire, you're dealing with a compulsion. Now, are
Mhm.
you dealing with a disease? Well, a lot of people say yeah, a lot of people say no. Chuck, I would love for you to find some like an expert on hoarding. I had no idea we were going to talk about this, but I'm I'm fascinated by it because I don't know if it really comes to you in the form of a disease or if it metastasizes. Like where does it start? Should I be worried that my entire desktop is cluttered with icons because I don't like to file things and I really don't know how and I don't really care to learn, or that my closets are overfilled? Like when do you people have these spring cleaning rituals, for
Yeah.
instance, that are so therapeutic, you know, because once you get used to getting rid of stuff, you get rid of more stuff. That all seems human and normal, but I really have no idea when things evolve or devolve into some kind of illness.
When you step over that line, well, I think
I was
it's
going to say,
when you,
when you open your front door and newspapers are stacked up from the
Yeah, when you
floor to the
can't find the
ceiling,
line to step
and
over
there's
it.
just a narrow pathway through
yeah.
your house and
Well,
everything is junk
well,
around you.
Chuck, that is exactly what happened. I've known this
Yeah.
man for years, probably 28 years. And through the years, he has invited us to his home for certain things. I was shocked when I went into his house. I went in the front door, and there was a narrow pathway, as you describe it,
Right.
through boxes and clutter. A narrow pathway into the kitchen or some room where this expert was going to teach us how to do something. Um, so
Not
it
clean
was
up.
gradual because you used to be able to get in through the front door, and then that pathway gradually closed in. Uh,
That's
so
fascinating.
yeah, it
This is
really,
fascinating.
yeah, it is. Um, and I know of someone here at the home who was hoarding, and he had a problem with something. His something was wrong with the electric or the water or something, and he had to call in general services. And when they came in, well, they are
Mhm.
trained to look for things. They might come in and you think, oh, they're just here to clean, or they're just here to unclog the drain. But these people are trained to look around to see if there are problems that need to be dealt with. So when this person came into his apartment and saw all of the clutter, he realized this man can't even get to the pool cord if he needs help. And so they had a meeting and they told him either he cleared out his apartment or he would have to leave.
Yeah.
So fortunately, he had friends who helped him to clear out his apartment.
I'm just so interested in the day, in the moment where you go from a messy person with a cluttered house to a hoarder,
Mhm.
to somebody who is suffering from a disease, because it just can't, right? It's an environmental kinetic thing. You can look at it and you can say, okay, that's a mess. That's messier. That's super messy. That now you've just entered? Like, is it one, like a box too far, a bit of clutter too much? And then, and then all of a sudden it looks like, oh, well, clearly this person's, you know, lost their mind, but they haven't. They're a frog in the boiling water, and it progresses. You know, my friend Mariana, Mike's wife,
Mhm.
she's had a business for years. I don't know if she still has it, but this happened about, I think, maybe 20 years ago. She just started noticing there were so many people that she either knew or had access to that were in this space suffering from some level of this problem. She started a business called Clutterflies, where she would come to your home and spend as much time as it took just to get you decluttered. And uh and I remember her telling me once, it's like sometimes it really is just a question of people who took their eye off the ball, and now they're just kind of disorganized and messy by nature, and they just need some help. They just need a clean slate, and then they can do a better job of keeping their basic area livable. And then there are people who are beyond help. And it's just fascinating and difficult to know at a glance which one you're dealing with.
Yeah, these people have to be willing to declutter. And if you are truly a hoarder, you are incapable of doing it.
Yeah.
Because dad and a couple of other guys who knew this person went over to his house one day uh, and said, "We're here." And they took big trash bags and they said, "We're here to help you," because he said he wanted to declutter. Sadly, they were unable to talk him into parting with anything. He had canned goods on the kitchen table that were years expired. Well, no, because he said, no, they don't really expire. They just put those dates on there, but you can still use that stuff. Um, a rubber band. Well, no, I might need that rubber band. So he'd stick it in his pocket. Oh, that was something else in his pocket, Chuck. Big,
Okay.
big balls of rubber bands. Oh, what
Don't leave home
else?
without them.
Oh, old newspapers. His house was cluttered with old
Yeah.
newspapers. His
That's
basement
common for
was.
hoarders. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but that's common.
He
Yeah.
said, well, because there might be a coupon in there that I could use.
I'm going to
They
show you
left
something,
that
Mom.
day without being able to get rid of stuff.
Look at this. This is the area. Here, let me turn this light over here. So this is my office, okay? Now, when we record, I'm over here, and it's not terrible. It's not great, but I got my lights set up and I can sit here and I can talk. But right on the other side of this partition, which I have up just to control the sound, I got stuff that just comes in the mail, and it's driving me crazy. It's just stacks of stuff. And every time I come over to try and tidy it up, the same thing happens. I look at a thing and I'm like, well, somebody sent me that book.
Yes.
They sent it to me. And and in my case, half the time they wrote it. Like
Yeah.
so he wrote a book and they sent it to me. And now I've got a stack of like 30 of these books. I'm never going to read them. There's just no way I can. And then between the books are letters and explanations and pictures, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone over there to say, okay, this is the day. I'm just going to get a bag because, like I said, I know what's going to happen. I'll snap and I'm going to throw it all away,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have a
Everything.
fire.
Right.
I'm going to have a fire, and then I'm going to feel okay about it. But that's not normal either. It's like, why can't you just you know manage your stuff? And look, you've got three sons, and all of us are somewhat afflicted to varying degrees with whatever that is. And maybe it's just as simple as procrastination meets a bit of laziness, meets a bit of distraction, or maybe we're nuts.
Or maybe that somebody cared enough about whatever they sent that they wanted to share it with somebody who is very approachable. And you are, Mike. People trust you. You're a very trustworthy person. So why not send you something that means a lot to me? People send me stuff too. Not on the same scale that they send you because I don't have as many followers, but they do. I have a big box of books.
Was that like a passive aggressive cry for help or something? What just happened there?
I don't
Are,
know.
you-
Tell me.
can you work up a tear? Because I don't have as many followers.
No, and I'm happy for that because I'd have a bigger box full of stuff.
Oh
Oh,
dear.
but I've been a writer forever and I had so much rejection. And these people who send me their books have had a lot of rejection. And they feel that maybe I can help them. Or maybe if they just get an encouraging word from me. And believe me, I've been there. I know that. I can't throw any books away. And I do read an occasional chapter here and there. Yeah.
It's heavy. Do you remember a book by a guy called O'Brien? I think it was Tim O'Brien. It was a big deal back in the 80s, I think. It was called The Things They Carried.
Oh, Dad just read that book not too long ago. It was
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was a wartime book about the
Yeah.
things that soldiers carried. And
Well, it
I
was
know this because Dad loves to read aloud,
now see,
and I'm
is that
here.
is that a proclivity, a condition, a compunction, an ailment,
Mike,
disease?
some writing is meant to be read aloud. I have to say that. I People tell me that my books are so good when shared with some people just tell me that. Are
Well,
so
in,
good
in
when read
fairness,
aloud
I
and
was one
shared
of
with some.
those people. Yeah, and I think Chuck may have told you that too.
Hey Mike, I
Yes.
recently wrote something that I think you might like. It's a story that happened years ago when you were growing up and you
Mm,
had two younger brothers, which you still have, but they were
younger,
younger.
still
and
brothers, if you're keeping score at
still
home,
And
brothers,
still younger,
and
still
still
younger than
younger,
you. Yeah.
not young
but
anymore.
no longer growing up. But
No.
anyway, it's about a purchase that we made for our family. Do you remember Kirby?
Oh my God! Please tell me you've written this down,
I I have written the story and I love it. It's filled with humor and
Chuck. This is the story of a vacuum cleaner, at least on the surface,
Named
right?
Kirby?
Well, Kirby was like the state of the art manufacturer of
Oh,
vacuums once upon a time. And
okay.
we had prior to that a Hoover. Now,
Okay.
which mom used to joke, we got from the Hoover administration because it was ancient
it was
and it was
originally
really
owned by Herbert.
it was the opposite of a vacuum, this thing. You'd push it around and it made sounds and air rushed around, but I think it was pushing the air out because crap and dust just flew over. It just didn't pick up any dirt at all. Anyway, sorry, mom. Go on. I love
So
this story.
one day John was on the phone and he was moving his feet around the floor, scraping his feet, and he scraped up a pile of dog hair because we had two dogs who shed like nobody's business.
And we lived like animals.
And we lived like animals. And
We
when
weren't
John
hoarders, but we just
Thank
lived in
God.
a giant hairball.
Yeah.
and when
Don't tell me
John
you were collecting the hairballs of the animals, right?
Yes,
The
and we'd
And
put them
making
in our
them into little
pockets.
in
dogs.
your pockets, yeah.
Yes. No, we filled pillows with them really and slept on them.
All our clothes were made of dog hair.
Well, that seems economical to me. I mean,
Yes.
that's not a bad idea.
And we wove them into blankets. But anyway, he
And
was
ate the dogs.
And supplied the army with blankets.
John was like not angry, but who lives like this? Look at this hair. And so, of course, I was a little on the defensive side and I said, You know where we keep the vacuum cleaner. Feel free to use it. And that's what he did right then. He went to the closet, got out the Hoover. Now, in defense of Hoover, I don't mean to, you know, to criticize Hoover, but this had been around for like decades.
This vacuum cleaner sucked.
Not at all.
See
Not
what I
at
did?
all. So he vacuumed and vacuumed and vacuumed, and very little happened. And I said, wait a minute, here's how you have to do it. So I laid it over on its side. And as he, you know, held it on, turned on the button, I fed the hair into the moving rollers on the bottom. I'd pick up a
What is-
handful of hair, put it in the roller, and it would disappear.
Dude, she's not making this up. I stood there. This is the house I grew up in. It's
I
not
know
like
the
we
house.
didn't it's not like we didn't have appliances. It's just that they weren't in a state where they could be operated, you know, in the intended way. So you literally, to use our vacuum, you had to lay it on its side, pull the crap out of the rug, and jam it into the roller. And you should see how the blender worked. There
I
was no
mean,
power. You had to just drop the eggs in or whatever, put the lid on, and then just pick it
shake
up
it.
and shake it like you were making a martini. The toaster, well, it was great as far as toasters go, but it didn't generate any heat. So what you
Just
had to
two
do,
big lighters, you know, on
no,
either side of the bread.
we just put the whole thing in the oven, turned
In
it
the
to
oven.
bake 450, and then put the bread in the toaster. Boom, Bob's your uncle.
Michael, you do exaggerate, but the but
That's
but
why
the
my stories
Kirby.
are better than yours.
So the Hoover part of the story, that is true. The hairy part. It is a
Oh.
hairy story for sure. So this is a Mother's Day story. Um, so for Mother's Day, John happened to see an advertisement on the bulletin board where he taught for um, a Kirby vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And so,
And it was
darn if he,
expensive. Like
oh
it
my
cost real
God,
money.
it costs $100. And on a school, I didn't work. I stayed home with the
What year was
children.
this? What year?
Well, I think Phil was
Mm.
about 5, and he was born in 67.
Yeah, so this was early
Okay.
70s,
Early
72,
70s.
73, maybe.
Gotcha. $100 is a lot of money. A lot of money.
Oh
And
my
crazy
golly.
money. It's like a mortgage payment.
Right.
John was more proud of that Kirby when he brought it home. You would have thought it was gold. And we all stood around and our mouths gaped open. We oohed and awed. The kids had never seen anything like it. I mean, it was like Christmas morning. Well, anyway, so I've written all this into a story, and I call it a Mother's Day story. I was going to put it in my book, but
You know
maybe
what? Why why don't send it to me? Send it to me today. I will record it, right? I'll read it like the old big blue purse thing that got this whole thing started.
Mm-hmm.
And uh and we'll just put it up either with the podcast or right after it, or we'll figure
it
out something to do with
it
it. But
gets very dark, though. Remember, Mike? Do
it
you
gets
think?
super
Oh,
dark. Oh
is
my
the
God.
audience up to that?
This story is well, without giving too much away, what I can tell you, Chuck, is I mean, we'd never seen the old man spend money on really anything ever. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and so including toys. Like we didn't have toys at that point, like not traditional toys, right? We would
But
we
was it a
we
ball of hair or whatever with a
you would
leash
play with
on
the
it? You know?
hairball,
Yeah,
right?
right.
We'd get like maybe 16 pieces of Lego and do your best. You know, we had one Lincoln log, which is difficult to build much with, but you connect the Lincoln log and the
But you use
Lego
the hair.
together.
You use the hair and the
Yeah,
Lego,
you
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 know.
have
tie
to
it
hold the
together with.
Lincoln log together. Yeah. So like we did the best we could. We didn't know any better. We thought,
Okay.
you know, because this is all part of, you know, expanding your imagination. But this vacuum cleaner was better than a toy. It was a it was a beast.
It was a
And
machine.
a true machine, a true engineering marvel, and it could it could suck the chrome off a trailer hitch, man. It was amazing, and like once we saw it in action, it like we couldn't wait to my brothers and I were fighting over who gets to vacuum who,
Wow.
and then it was like, oh my god, it'll lift up a pillow, it'll lift up a ball.
Oh,
It's the
man.
attachments. When they discovered the attachments, it was Christmas morning. I'm telling you, it was a weapon, it was a tool, it was pure fun.
I'm
Yeah,
Yeah.
guessing some of your brothers got some hickeys somewhere on their body from
They might have been pulled upwards
first
somewhere.
day. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, there were hickeys all over the place. I mean, yeah, there. I mean, it was just crazy. Like everything in the house needed to be tested against Kirby and the attachments because it had a hose, right? And the hose had these different attachments. I know it's all very common today, but in 1973, it was literally like the
this was
prime.
NASA stuff,
Yeah, it
Oh,
was a
right?
it
prime
was.
directive on Star Trek. An alien came
It
and
was.
left a device from the future on our porch. And now we were just trying to figure out all the different things that could happen. Well, look, I don't want to
Right.
screw up the story because I I'll be curious, Mom, if you heard it the way I heard it, if we remember it the same way.
That will,
But
yeah, that's good.
okay, because
Probably, I mean, the facts are there, but interpretation will probably vary because you saw it from a, what, 11-year-old boy's eyes through your eyes. Oh, Chuck, it was honestly, I didn't know what to expect next. They wanted to vacuum the curtains. They pulled the curtains right off the wall, and the curtain rod came right off the wall. They just about destroyed the house. I mean, and
The vacuum cleaner.
the poor dogs.
Oh,
The one dog was 15 pounds. It lifted her hind end right off the
Oh,
floor.
no.
right off the
But
ground,
the other
Ginger.
dog had a real thick coat. She was part shepherd.
Uh-huh.
She loved it. Oh my God, thought she died and went to heaven when they put that on her back. She
Uh-huh.
loved it. It scrubbed the hair, pulled the hair right off her, not all of it, of course, just the loose
A lot
hair.
of it. A
Pulled
lot
it
of it.
off.
We would vacuum the dog. And it was amazing. The hair never stopped coming off the dog, but the dog never went totally bald. But
Bald, right.
but we sucked a lot of hair off that dog. We really did. But look,
I'm so curious as to how it went
oh
dark
God. Well,
Oh
look,
and what
my
the darkness was.
God.
I don't
You'll
want to wreck it, but
no.
I'll just tell you that in our particular home, which
Mhm.
was a haven for all creatures, great and small, cats, all sorts of creatures,
Mm.
and not all of them take to being vacuumed equally.
Okay.
Okay.
Is PETA gonna get involved in this story once it's over?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope not.
Oh, no.
I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah. HSUS PETA. Look, it won't be the first angry letter I've gotten from that particular angry acronym, but suffice it to this is a screwed up Mother's Day story, but since you've written it and since Mother's Day is around the corner, send it. I'll read it. Done.
It was such fun to write. I couldn't stop laughing when I wrote it. And I called your brothers to see if they remembered it, and of course, they remembered it.
Remembered it. There's we're all still in some form of therapy for that whole decade. This is so we had we had horses. We were boarding horses back
Sure.
then. We had dogs, we had cats. Phil was like a even at that age, he was only like 5 or 6 years old, but he was like a Steve Irwin. He'd come home.
Oh,
God, he'd bring home fish out of the creek. He'd bring home lizards, frogs. That all sorts of
We
things.
had 2 turtles that walked our kitchen floor. I mean,
That must have taken a while because they're pretty slow.
well, we had a big kitchen too.
Yeah.
Um, oh my golly, crayfish. We had a pan of crayfish under our bed. One night, John and I woke up in the middle of the night and we heard scratching, scratching. I said, "What the heck?" And John looked under the bed and there was a big pan of crayfish. And little Philip had put them there because he said, I was afraid they might wake up in the middle of the night and miss their mommies and daddies. So I wanted them to be close to you. So I put them under our bed. Oh, a snake. Phil brought a big black snake into the basement, wrapped around his arm. It was all animal. And you know what? He's still an animal person. He hasn't
Yeah.
changed that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, still loves animal. Anyway, Mike, I'm so glad to see that you're up and about, and because you were a little bit under the weather.
You know, there's so much crud going around. And yeah, I got back from Clint Hill's funeral and didn't feel bad, but just didn't feel great. And then every day it's just a little worse, a little worse. And then it's like, oh, you know what? You're sick. And then you take your temperature and it's like, what? 103. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's high.
it was high. It was high. And I spent the weekend in bed and now I feel exponentially better.
I'm so glad. Well, are you coughing? Because when I had that, it left
Yeah,
me with a residual cough that just lasted for a long time.
I know. I was so worried about you. Well, was it COVID or do we even care anymore?
Well,
Is that
we
even a polite question?
we both tested positive for COVID in the first week of April. April 1st for me, and I think maybe April 3rd or 4th for your father. So we did have COVID, but very different forms of COVID. We had
Yeah.
different symptoms.
You
But
had the kind
coughing,
that you can only get after you've been vaccinated and boosted 3 times. That that most rare form of COVID reserved for people who did everything they were told to do, but nevertheless have it visited upon them for reasons no one is. No, it's just unknowable. It's just a fluke, I suppose.
I don't know, but I do know that I missed the latest booster because I had COVID. And they said, don't don't think about it. Maybe in a few months you might decide to go there. But Mike,
Oh.
it's funny. I wrote about it because
'Cause that's what you do.
but because I write and I talk about our lives. Well, I got the greatest comments from readers who wanted to tell me what to do to stay healthy and how to avoid coughing. It was so funny. One lady said, "Oh, sip pineapple juice. That'll do it. That does it for me every time. My coughing stops the minute I sip pineapple juice." Another woman said, "Sprinkle salt into the palm of your hand and lick it." And she said, "By the time you lick up all that salt, you won't even want to cough. The cough will be gone." I didn't do that because I try not to, ingest too much salt. Um, oh my golly. And for the coughing,
Wasn't there something about wrapping your
oh my
feet
gosh,
with
somebody told me to slice more than somebody. I mean, a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, yeah, that works." Slice a raw onion very thin and wrap it on the bottom of your feet. Put it on the bottom of your feet and wrap saran wrap around it. I'm doing it as I'm talking, and that will help. Well, don't try to go to the bathroom and walk on onions because you'll get bruised feet. Um, and then somebody told me, "Oh, this is easy. You just get Vicks Vapor Rub and you rub it all over the soles of your feet just before you go to sleep, and then put socks on, and you won't cough all night long." I did that. I did do a little coughing too. I
so
mean, I might have done more if I hadn't tried that, but
yeah, but that's like saying, my head still hurts after I took the aspirin, but it would have hurt so much more if I didn't, you know? I know this tweaks a lot of people, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If we're living in an age where the most enlightened minds in the world keep telling us to take more and more boosters, and everybody keeps getting the same disease over and over and over again, then I'm not sure how bananas it really is to wrap your feet in bananas or to sip pineapple or eat onion or rub salt on your hand. I don't know how to think about people who have to take their pants off in order to walk through their kitchen on account of all the clutter. I don't know if I should just set them off in crazy town while the rest of the population is lining up to get booster number 12 while they're infected with the very thing it's supposed to prevent. I just don't know how to think about it all, Mother. Please say something wise for those dozen or so people still listening.
I do have one reader who raises goats, and she wrote to me and suggested that I put Vicks in one nostril and some garlic, a garlic clove in the other nostril. And she said, really, that helps so much. Um, you'll get well faster, and the coughing will be at a minimum.
How's the goat
Also,
factor into this?
also she feeds her goats honey and cinnamon and dark red wine. And I said, if this, if I do succumb to this illness, I want to come back as one of your goats.
Honey and wine. Nice.
Yeah,
Honey
honey
and
and
wine,
wine.
sure.
But the garlic clove and I don't know about that.
Well, you've
I mean,
got
just like jamming a clove up your nose, is she
Yeah.
saying? Like clogging your nose?
Well, she wasn't real specific. And I don't know how big goats' nostrils are.
well,
You
wait a
She
minute.
know.
did that to her goats, or she was saying for you to do that?
Oh no, when her goat gets sick, she puts a thing of garlic in
Mom,
her
that's
nose.
Oh
not what
my
you
god.
said.
Oh, what'd
Oh
I
yeah.
say?
You said that a woman who owns goats wrote to you and suggested that you stick garlic cloves up one
Oh, well,
nostril.
she was just telling me what she does with her goats, and then she
Hmm.
thought,
Oh,
Important detail of the
that's a
story there.
really critical detail.
"Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was picturing you with the clove of garlic, but even that, I mean, the PETA people should talk to her with a jamming garlic up a
Chuck, none
goat's
of
nose.
it's a
This
stretch. You're
woman
talking about a woman who vacuums by turning on the vacuum, lying it on its side, and then
And
pulling the
stuff it
dirt
in.
out of the rug and jamming it into the roller. It's not
this
beyond the pale that she might strap some onions to her feet and shove some garlic up her nose.
this woman loves her goats, and if, she wouldn't do anything to harm her goats, so she feels that this is really a good remedy, garlic in the nostril.
We had a
And
goat, didn't
Vicks.
we? For a while?
Oh, we didn't, but our neighbor did, and our
Oh
neighbor
yeah.
kept in fact, the goat's name was Mary, and he used to, put Mary in our back pasture.
That's why. That's you can see my confusion. When you live in a petting zoo and you look out the window and there's a goat in your back pasture, it's not a stretch to think it might just
Belong to you.
be part of the menagerie.
Also, their chickens used to come into our garden and eat
Yeah,
our tomatoes.
yeah, yeah, yep. Those were the
Chickens. You
days.
should get some chickens, Mike.
Yeah, I
You should
should
get
get some
chickens.
chickens.
They're very popular.
Yeah. I would
There are a
love to
lot
have
of
chickens.
I mean, backyard chickens are really the rage now. A lot of people have chickens in their
Yeah. They
backyard.
make eggs. You can eat them.
I
I love
know.
that.
And they're not gonna be diseased eggs if control your chickens where they go and so forth.
I learned more than I wanted to know about all that season. I think it was season 1 of Dirty Jobs up at Murray McMurray. You remember that hatchery segment where
Sexting.
we did chick sexing?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember. That was funny.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's like 350 breeds of chickens that are out
Really?
there. There's so many. And secondly, the vast majority of chicks that are purchased by people all over the country are sent to them through the U.S. mail. They're literally put in a box and
Oh, right.
just shipped, you know, and they can survive for a while because the white part of the egg, what you call the albumin, is absorbed by the yolk, and that's filled with the, I guess, the fluids, the nutrition, whatever hydration is necessary to keep the chicks alive for a couple of days. And Chuck, I don't know if you saw the episode, but chick sexing, right? You just,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, you take these chickens one at a time. They're little chicks. They're like little Easter tweeters.
They're little balls of yellow feathers, little
Yes,
Yeah. With
down.
a tiny beak. Yeah.
yes. And to separate the pullets from the cockerels, you need to have a really experienced eye. And for whatever crazy reason, at least 20 years ago, I'm not sure it's still the same, but the go-to chick sexing teams were flown all around the country to different farms to perform this service. And incredibly and inexplicably, these teams often consisted of very old Japanese men who, for whatever reason, had some facility for the work. And the work involved picking up each of these little chicks and peering into their buttholes to identify that the tiniest little bump. The bump was associated with the cockerel, of course, and the pullets were bump free. And so the two sexes were separated, but in between the peering into the butthole was the evacuation
Yes.
of the intestines, which presumably were filled with some ingested albumin. So the first thing you do is you pick them up and you hold them over a coffee can. In this case, I think it was a Folgers, if I remember right. Not that it matters, but you'd
Yeah.
literally squeeze the chick and the poop would fly out. And then you'd look into the butthole, pullets to the right, cockerels to the left. And and it was really only the pullets that people wanted. Those were the ones that typically got shipped by the thousands every day.
And then
Incredible
what
operation.
happens to the male chicks,
Oh, geez,
the
Chuck.
cockerels?
Really? All right. Well, I mean, since we're having that kind of conversation,
Yeah.
um, yeah, this wasn't dealt with in the episode because it was deemed too upsetting by my
Oh,
executive producer at the time. But they're not needed, and so they are disposed of. And by disposed of, I mean they are by the thousands poured into a hopper of sorts that leads straight into a grinder. It's like a whisper chopper. And what comes out the other end is just cockerel goo, um, which, if memory serves, is ultimately repurposed and turned into chicken feed. So there you go. Hakuna Matata, Mom. Circle of
well,
life. You think you had it rough with the Hoover?
that's a happy story, Mike. Well,
Well,
when your nephew, you weren't born yet, of course. I was just a teenager, but when my sister was married and had a little boy who was 3, and we lived in the country on a farm.
hmm
Well, I bought Stephen, who was 3, I bought him 6 little baby chicks for Easter. Well, they were little babies, and when I bought them at the feed store, I said, "I would like females, please." 5 of them were males and 1 was a female. Well, those
Same thing
males.
happened with your kids, as I recall.
Yes, yes, I ordered girls 3 times. But anyway, they were horrible. They all ran loose, of course. We didn't have a chicken house. They just ran free. Well, you couldn't go out the back door. They would attack you. They would put their wings up in the air and scratch the ground and put their heads down and run right for you. They were horrible. You would try to cut the grass and they would attack the lawnmowers. So your Uncle Charles came up from Virginia and took them
Dear.
home with him, and they had chicken for dinner.
Yeah, where they spent the rest of their lives and rich fulfillment up on the farm. Do
Yeah,
you remember the
that's
first time you saw your grandmother wring the neck of a chicken?
oh my golly, it was traumatic. I mean, my sweet little grandma Daisy, just
Mhm.
with the apron on and her braids wrapped around her crown like a cherub. Just the sweetest little thing in a little pair of glasses. She picked up that hatchet, grabbed that chicken by the head, and laid him over the tree stump and whack. And the blood, I mean, the blood splattered on her face, and what was left of that chicken just danced around the yard. Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. That's another kind of dark story, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, you came out with
It
mental
involves
illness.
dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dance.
we we paint with a broad brush over here with coffee with mom.
I know. Can't we think of something happy?
Mm-hmm. I got one. Since you mentioned Daisy, here's another episode that never really aired, which is a shame. But I did a story on these people who were living off the grid outside of Georgia who raised rabbits as their primary source of protein. And we're getting a lot of hate mail from people because they'd go online and they would, their kids are participating and they're walking them through all the steps of raising and slaughtering and preparing, and they're making rabbit stew and Hass and Pfeffer, and I just thought, well, it's a great chance for people to understand where their food comes from, and I wanted to do that story, so we went there and we filmed it, and sure enough, man, it's very instructive. A rabbit, mom, is is so much more efficient than a cow to an almost extraordinary magnitude. Like the meat from a rabbit that you'll eat when it's properly slaughtered and prepared is well over 90%, but a cow is probably less than 50 when you count for all the organs and all the fat and all the stuff that you don't want.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's super efficient, but I'll never forget this this father taking one of the rabbits, big plump Easter bunny. I mean, he just looked like the star of a Cadbury commercial, and just gave it a slow pet and said some soothing words to it. And the kids came over and they petted the rabbit, and the father the father laid it on the ground and took an axe handle and gently put it behind the head and on the neck. And the little boy and the little girl each petted the rabbit again, and the father put a foot on either side of the handle and then grabbed the hind legs. And then they said a little prayer. And then the little girl reached out and rubbed the ears one more time and said, "Bye, Daisy." And then the father pulled the hind legs of the rabbit, and the neck snapped. And within 4 minutes, that thing was completely dressed. And 5 minutes after that, it was in a pot. And 2 hours later, we were having rabbit stew. And the network just said, we just uh, we just don't we just don't know how to think about it. I literally called the episode "Bye Daisy," and you know what? I mean, you brought her up, but it was beautiful. I mean, it was rough because you don't want the Easter bunny. You don't see the Easter bunny as your meal, but
Yeah, we don't want to see
there it is.
things die. I mean, we know, no, we know we like a hamburger, but we went up to your Uncle Nelson's one year. Golly, I can't remember. I think it was over the Christmas holiday, and we had dinner and we were eating, and they had hamburgers, but they called them Max burgers. And I was curious as to how they got that term. Max burgers, are they, like maximum ketchup and mustard and relish? No, this was Max. Remember Max out in the field eating grass? This was Max. These are Max burgers. I don't. You guys couldn't eat very much.
Oh, but I do remember it. And honestly, that was somewhere in the back of my mind when we did Earl the Butcher. That mobile butcher segment, that one did air, and that one upset a lot of people. Remember, I shot the cow. I shot a cow in
Oh,
an episode of Dirty Jobs. Yeah.
it was probably a steer.
No, it was a cow.
Oh, a cow.
It was horrible. But, you know, I rode with the butcher, and this was a family who raised the cow for this specific purpose, and it would provide them with 700 pounds of meat, feed them for the whole year. And when the day came to take it, they didn't want to do it. You know, they had kids, and it wasn't a pet, but they had become attached to it. I forget the name of this thing. What I'll never forget, though, is opening the segment, standing there by the gate. It's a shot of me and the cow, and the farmer and his wife and his family are out of the shot, and the mobile butcher, Earl, is standing on the other side of the camera with a rifle. And I just introduced the segment by saying, we're here, and we were in Western Michigan, I remember. And I quickly introduced Earl, and the camera caught him. And then I quickly introduced the family, and the camera panned over. And then it came back to me, and I'm standing next to the cow, and I explained to the viewer that this cow is going to feed that family for the next year. And that man, Earl, is going to show you exactly how every cut is prepared, dry aged, and then returned to this place. But he's also here because the family doesn't want to do what has to be done. But make no mistake, what has to be done is going to happen. As I'm talking, the cow is licking my neck, nuzzled up and licking my neck.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And
And
that's
she
when I
had a
knew.
name, and she'd been giving them milk. Is she
Yes.
a milk cow?
Well, I mean, it is traditional. I mean, if she wasn't giving them
Well,
milk, I don't know what she was giving them.
I mean, it's life, isn't it? I mean, and we don't want to see that side of it, but we're very anxious to eat a hamburger or a steak or, you know.
Mom, it's the it's one of the few things that I'm positive about today. And not everybody agrees, but I say it all the time, and Chuck's heard me talk to lots of different guests about this, but you just have to get your head out of the sand. I don't care what the issue is. You know, if you want to trade with China, you have to look at what's going on with the Uyghurs. You have to look at what's going on with organ harvesting. You don't have to like it, but you have to at least be mindful of it. And if you're going to eat a steak or a hamburger, yeah, you damn well better meet Max. You better understand where it's coming from. The animal deserves that much, at least. And I guess if you're going to make lighthearted jokes about a condition like hoarding, then you need to hear a real life story about somebody who had to take their pants off to walk through their own kitchen. It's real, and it's a heck of a thing, but in the end, it's better to know, right?
Yeah, we should be informed.
Well, I tell you what, in the interest of information, as we land the plane here, I'll remind the two or three viewers we still have left that I'm going to read your story. It better be as good as I remember it, and we're going to have it up either for Mother's Day or just before it. And by the way, folks, if you haven't bought her latest book, do I have you a copy of it sitting around? I think I gave. I think I. Oh no, here it is.
It's probably on your bedside table.
Well, of course it is dog-eared, but here's my copy right here. Oh no, not the home. It's her fourth book. It's as good as the rest, maybe even better. How did that last event go?
Oh, it went very well. Yeah, lots of compliments.
Yeah, did you tell
And
them
they
about killing chickens and hoarders and all that, or did you just
no,
stick
no,
with
no,
the?
no. Oh no, I just stuck with the usual. Lots of humor. Well, they were just curious to know what it is like for a resident in a facility such as this,
Yeah,
long-term care facility, because they knew it from an employee side, but they hadn't really heard it from somebody who is willing to tell it like it is.
You know,
And
Chuck,
it's
it's really
filled
risky.
with
And
humor.
I mean, if you think about it, there are people who, you know, run this Erickson operation are
Mm.
bringing my mom in to talk to large groups. And
Wow.
they buy her book and she tells them the realities, you know, warts and all. I mean, it's almost always funny, but I think it's terrific, Mom. I think what you're doing, yeah, well, as you know, I'm a fan. I love you. Everybody else does too. So I got to jump, but go wrap some onions on your feet and get that garlic up your nose and get out there and live your best life.
Okay, Mike, I'll do that. This has been fun. It's always nice to see you guys.
If you like what you heard,
And even if you don't,
oh, won't you please, pretty please subscribe?
well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty freaking